Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to our second Education Industry Solutions Spotlight. This is held by your Smartsheet account team. And the purpose of these calls are to show live demonstrations of common use cases that our customers, like yourself, are leveraging Smartsheet today. Just here, Smartsheet is a publicly traded company, so any forward-looking statements that are not guarantees of any future performance, and you should not put any undue reliance on any of the statements mentioned today. Throughout the session, please use the questions via the Q&A button in the bottom right corner. We'll answer them live, and then if there's any that require kind of going back and showing anything on our side, we'll do it at the end, but we will address any throughout that we can in the chat. So make sure we'll be monitoring that as we go through the topics today. And then here's the agenda of what you can expect from this session. I'll be passing it over to Kevin Liu and Angie Anderson to go through the demonstrations today that will cover request and ticket management, managing room and facility reservations, curriculum development and course success, and then grant fulfillment and tracking. And then we'll close out, make some announcements to be on the lookout for, and answer some Q&A, as I mentioned, at the end. And just a refresher for those that might be more newer to Smartsheet and need a kind of foundational understanding of elements that you'll see throughout the demonstration. At its core, Smartsheet begins on the sheet level, and then from there, once the data is within Smartsheet on the sheet level, you can build reports and dashboards. So you'll see components of this throughout the demonstration today, incorporating forms, alerts, and automation, and really that ease of use across your team. But just wanted to set the expectations of throughout the demonstration, you'll see elements of this, and this is how they all stack up together to deliver solutions within Smartsheet. And now I will pass it off to Kevin to kick us off for the live demonstration.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Mariana. I'm just going to share my screen here. Great. So for the demo portion of today's call, we'll be going over a few different use cases, really starting off with how we can leverage Smartsheet's dynamic view to manage sharing control. So with dynamic view, one of the most interesting things about it are its selective sharing capabilities, which makes it really easy for business users to maintain security and confidentiality by removing access to underlying sheets or reports while still maintaining that ability to share. Oftentimes, we find ourselves managing tons of data with varying levels of roles and responsibilities. So dynamic view allows us, or you as the owner, to selectively share elements of work with key stakeholders, both internally and externally, allowing for read-only, edit access, or even the ability to hide certain fields during a specific process as well. In terms of scenarios for dynamic view, the applications are endless. These are just some of our more common use cases, but in short, for any process that can benefit from selective sharing, dynamic view can offer a high level control over who has access to your underlying data. For today's demo, we'll be covering maintenance requests and ticketing, so users can create a standardized process for collecting requests, and also ensure that data is secure and team members have that visibility into their assigned work and status updates, while also providing the relevant levels of access they need to their underlying resources. So what I have here is just an example of the maintenance request status dashboard that we can leverage to collect all incoming maintenance requests, as well as provide that added visibility into what are the types of requests we're getting, how long does each request take to assign and to resolve, and categories of work I can break these requests into. In terms of request statuses, if we have a lot that received but haven't actually been assigned yet, what are some of the steps that we can take to resolve more tickets? These are all metrics that we can surface at the dashboard level to provide that insight into what's currently happening across all my requests. The key here with this dashboard is that This is just one high-level representation into the art of what's possible. Dashboards are completely widget-based, so we can just drag and drop and build these dashboards out to cover any sort of metrics or updates that we want to see. And what's really great about this is everything we see here is dynamic in real time. So as tickets are being submitted or as your tickets are being assigned or resolved, everything ultimately flows up into this dashboard so you can maintain real-time visibility in all your request submissions. So let's say we want to take a strategic approach with how we address those requests. We can tailor our reports to show the amount of unassigned requests so we don't have to dig around and search through my list of work for anything that's unassigned. It can be readily available here within a single report. And from an user's perspective, this is an example of a dynamic view that enables individuals to see only the requests that have been assigned to them. With Dynamic View, as requests are being collected in your sheets, we've created this custom view that essentially overlays on top of your sheet or report and filters through both row and columns to dynamically update per the end user. As a viewer, I can only have access to the fields or requests that have been assigned to me without access to any requests or assignments submitted from anyone else within the underlying source. I'll get into that more in just a second, but let's say if we all log into the same maintenance request dashboard, we'll each have our own tailored view into the work that's been assigned to us without the need of having to dig around a large list of work orders or accessing work that belongs to someone else. Here in one view, we've made it really easy for managers or schedulers to communicate updates and create a one-stop shop where you can direct any questions regarding what's been assigned to me or status updates all into one view, as well as grant control access into the underlying sheet data. As the admin, you have full control over which cells can be edited and which ones you want to make read-only. This level of control visibility enables us to not only grant access to our information, but also ensures the proper guardrails are in place so we don't have to worry about having the wrong information being shared out or having people alter any key underlying information by accident. In our case, as a team member, I can track the date that this request was assigned to me and update the status accordingly. So when users such as those that originally submitted this request, they can receive status updates of their request on their end and what was done and the steps that took place to get us to a resolution. Permissions can also be granted to add or access attachments and comments. So in our case here, we can attach any paperwork or permits, as well as comment on what was done for certain requests. So now that we've seen what a request management dashboard looks like, when it comes to submitting requests, we can create a similar dashboard that's catered towards submitting tickets and requests. To the left with forms, Smartsheet forms are a really quick and easy way to track all your incoming requests and work, which this can of course be completely customized to suit any requirements you have for your submissions. This of course is just a high level example of what a typical request form might look like for you, but all forms are essentially linked directly to a sheet. So as you submit this form, this feeds over directly into an underlying sheet, which then tracks and updates all your results based on the responses. We can designate certain fields to be required or optional. And for any documents that you'd like to collect, we can even attach files here too. So say if there's a design or contract that you want to collect with a specific request, forms can help grab that and attach it into your sheet as well. Really, the key here with forms are that we can streamline how you collect information while also providing some guardrails to that process so you can collect all the information you need ahead of time. As you submit requests, to the right, we have another example of a dynamic view that collects all submissions and selectively shares only the submissions that were made by me. As a submitter, I can access this dynamic view to view the status of all my requests, whether or not they've been approved, and gauge whether or not I may need to escalate this request. All submissions and updates can be communicated directly through this channel, which really cuts back on a lot of the back and forth and manual updates that you typically might need to communicate. And since your dynamic view is connected into an underlying sheet, you don't have to worry about having anything fall through the cracks. All form submissions are fed into a centralized request tracker, similar to this one here, that serves as your main repository for all your work. As we receive submissions, make an assignment, or update statuses, all of this can be tracked within this one sheet that we can then selectively share out for the end user through Dynamic View. So to wrap up what we saw with Dynamic View enables users to selectively share data across your entire organization, which makes it really easy to maintain security and confidentiality. We can control who has access to what and hide certain fields. So really great for creating end user views tailored for specific visibility and access. The next piece that we're going to cover today is how we can leverage Calendar app to visualize multiple timelines and centralize your updates. Similar to what we saw with Dynamic View in terms of robust visibility, the Calendar app is a flexible, configurable calendar add-on that allows you to connect your Smartsheet data to visualize your events in multiple views or categories, all in one primary calendar. Events and timelines can be sorted into digestible views by any time frame, categorized, and provide at-glance updates and controlled access for all users shared to your calendar. Common use cases for Calendar app are to track master events, prioritize timelines, room and facility scheduling, and track key deadlines. As I mentioned earlier, these are just some common use cases. For any process where you're really looking to visualize multiple timelines and prioritize communication, this can all benefit from Calendar app. For today's demo, we'll be covering rooms and facility scheduling so users can visualize available room time slots over any time frame and eliminate the chance of overbooking or underutilization. So what I have here is a room booking portal that users can reference to visualize room availability across any time frame and provide insights into which time slots are open and which ones have already been booked. With the embedded Calendar app, we can compile room bookings and grab details such as who booked this room for this time slot or what's the purpose of this meeting. Like we see here, availability is broken down into multiple colors that you can then use to group by a status or even type of request. In our case, green represents available and orange represents an occupied time. Like I mentioned earlier, we can visualize our calendar by multiple time frames. In terms of our current view, we have this broken out day by day. If we want to visualize availability for a whole week or month at a time, we can flex to any time frame and then directly book out all those time slots. In this case here, I have this set to be week by week. So if there's a need to book out a time slot a week at a time, we can set this to be at a weekly view. By leveraging Calendar app with Dynamic View, users can also come into our booking calendar, identify a time slot that they're interested in that's available, and cross-reference it with our Dynamic View to sign up for the room. Once we locate our time slot and book out a room, let's say we're looking to book out our Alaska room for 11 to 12 on August 23rd. We can just come into our meeting room bookings, which identifies all availability. Locate that time slot and set it to be booked. Now, what will happen next is, since the two are tied to the same underlying sheet, this will mark this time slot here within the forest room for August 23rd to be booked at that time slot that we designated. And the beauty here is both Calendar app and this Dynamic View are layered on top of the same underlying sheet. Calendar app provides visibility into availability, whereas dynamic view locks down the time slots once they've been submitted. So once it's been locked down, other users can't come into this room booking portal and move any times around or reassign anyone. And similar to what we saw earlier, to the right, we have a dynamic view that's tailored for each submitter. Each submitter can track which rooms they've booked, as well as cancel their bookings if they don't need the room anymore. Additional details can be grabbed. So details such as who booked out this room, which meeting room, and the purpose, as well as any cancellation information. Each view is directly referencing our meeting room booking sheet, where we can track each individual time slot as well as the room requester. And native to core Smartsheet functionality, we can set up automations to notify each submitter. So whenever the room is booked, we can communicate this out to the rest of the team. Really, the key here is that this is our master tracker. Calendar app enables us to visualize all our dates and time slots and acts as a gate so we don't have to share users directly to the sheet to grant visibility into all of our timelines. So next up, we'll be going over a couple other examples around curriculum planning and grant fulfillment. So I'll pass it over to Angie.
Excellent. Thanks, Kevin. And just one second while I share my screen. Okay, excellent. So for this next solution we'll be going over, we are going to discuss curriculum management, or really how you can manage any multi-step process in Smartsheet. So a lot of the challenges that we hear when we talk about these kind of multi-step processes is one team may own part of the process. And so there's a lack of visibility as requests move from stage gate to stage gate. And so with that, there can also be a lot of repetitive manual tasks, potentially leading to errors where because your team owns one sheet or one part of the process, and then you have to copy and paste that to another sheet for another part of the process or retype things. This can lead to inefficiencies and lack of or increased time wasted, but also potential typos or errors. And then your teams are working in silos and we no longer have visibility into the entire process as a whole. So one of the solutions to combat this is a tool called Data Mesh. With Data Mesh, you can create direct links between different Smartsheet sheets for a holistic visibility into a single solution. You're able to look up different data based on specific criteria in these different sheets without even having to use a formula. So you don't have to be a formula wizard to make sure that you've got a single row of data with all of the different pieces that you are trying to capture. You can easily map from point A to point B. And so with that, let's get into what, oops, too many screens here, a solution looks like. This. So here we're looking at a dashboard. We can see at a high level, how many requests are coming in every quarter, every semester, every season for either an update to current curriculum or a refresh of curriculum, a brand new course or a brand new program, and then kind of the management and development of that. We've, again, similar to the request management, made it easy where you can have all of your requests in a sheet. But there may be, like we mentioned, information living in different places. So in this case, when people fill out the form, we have our roster information in one place, and additional course information living in another. And we want to make this really easy for folks when they are filling out the forms. You may not know all of the information off of the top of your head. You may not know program codes automatically for every request you make. You may not know who is the instructional designer or the SME. And there might be maybe your HR team is managing this part of the process and keeping all of the roster and contacts up to date. And maybe it is department chairs or other folks keeping the program codes, or maybe there's other teams who are managing part of this process. But as an individual who has a good idea for either a course refresh or a program, a new program offering, you may not have the time to look all of that up. We're, constantly being bombarded by requests and different interruptions. So we want to make this easy. One way to do that, we fill out the form. So we're going to say that this is for Springfield and say econ, and that means we will be econ. So I don't know the program code off the top of my head, and that's okay. This is just an idea. This is going to be for a course refresh, and we'll say that this is going to launch fall of next year. So we've got a bit of time. And you'll also notice, I don't know who the instructional designer is going to be or the SME. There's a lot of this that we still need to figure out. This is just an idea, and we want to capture ideas so that we can have really thoughtful conversations about, is this something we want to move forward with? Or is this something that we even have the resources for? Are these things we want to keep doing? So one way to do that, all of this is going to land into our intake sheet when we fill out the form. As this loads, here we go. We'll come down here. We can see this has been our new field that has come in, and we don't know this information, and we don't necessarily know who our leads are going to be. But what data mesh is going to do is it is going to take that data here, it's going to find econ, and it's going to pull in this information. And similarly, from our contact list, it's going to pull in this information as well. And so if we come here, we can do a quick refresh. Might need to give it a minute, but we can see how really simple this mapping is. If I open up data mesh here, we can see here's our contact info. And so we can get a little peek behind the hood and see what this looks like. So here we're saying, look for the program. So in this case, we're looking for econ. So, oh, there it is. If it's econ, then pull in, there we go, that econ data, and similarly for the contact column. So here we can see it's pulled in that information, and it's pulled in who's going to be our department head, instructional designer, and SME. Meaning I don't have to know all of that, but I also don't have to look it up. I don't have to type it because this information already lives in our systems in Smartsheet, even though another team is owning a part of this process. So we've really simplified it. And then because we are in Smartsheet, we now have the power of automations where I can say, okay, a new request has come in. We still don't have this level. We don't know what's the level of this course. Is it going to be a 101, 201? And so we can, oops, there we go, get notified in our email. Let's do this. There we go. New program request review. So I can open this up. I can see all of that information that is pulling from the sheet that we just entered. I can open up this request. And now we can say, is this going to be a pending status, or are we going to approve and move forward, or are we going to deny and say, we don't actually have the resources. We shouldn't be working on this right now. In this case, I'm going to approve it, and we're going to say it's a 101 course and submit that. So I got this request, and I didn't even have to go into Smartsheet. I did this all straight from my email. So if I'm working with teams who are constantly in meetings or, not on the road or not living in Smartsheet, they can still do this straight from their email. We don't have to, create these unnecessary bottlenecks where we're waiting on someone else to enter in the information. Similarly, when we are filling out our intake sheet, we didn't have to wait for another team to pull in this information. We use data mesh to go ahead and do that. And here we used automations to fill this in. So now we've got a course number, we've got this updated, and we can use updates to our advantage as well to notify the requester. And from here, we can actually create a project plan so that as we are developing courses, go in here, as we are developing courses, then we can now have this project plan where we can also use Smartsheet automations to our advantage to make sure everyone is on the same page and we are actually going to have this ready and available by the time that we hit fall 2025 when this needs to be ready. And also because this is a connected environment, we also have our dashboard that is automatically going to update. So if I refresh our dashboard, we'll see that our metrics have updated as well, where we didn't have to do anything. And within this process now, when anytime we check our dashboard, everything is going to be updated. It's going to be accurate. We can trust that what we're looking at is accurate data and that we are making decisions with the most up-to-date information. So with that, we come back here. And we'll see that some of the main takeaways here is no code. So I didn't have to use a formula to pull in data from these other systems. I didn't have to spend time looking up this information or copying and pasting because I know that it already lives in Smartsheet. And now we've got more visibility across teams, even though they're owning different parts of this system. So we have everything we need in a single place with no hiccups, and we can operate really smoothly and efficiently. Some other common use cases for data mesh include inventory management. I saw there was a question in there about template sets for inventory management. Data mesh is a great tool for that. If you've got cost codes living in one place or another system, and you've got values or availability living in a different sheet. So being able to marry that data, basically anytime there's information in two different places in Smartsheet, but you want everything visible in a single row, data mesh is going to be a really valuable tool. So thinking about things like credentialing or human resources, where you're doing employee manager reviews and different feedback sessions. So a lot of different use cases here. Before I move on to the next session, Kevin or Mariana, any questions that we need to address from the group as a large here?
Nope, no specific questions on my end here.
Okay.
I'm taking a look. There's some specific ones on data mesh, but it might be best to wait until the end, or if you prefer to answer them now, Angie.
I'm also working on answering a few too, so whatever works.
Okay. It's up to you guys. We can, since we're on data mesh, we can probably answer a couple of them now.
Question on if data mesh, can the match be on more than just one field?
Yes, the match can. So when you're setting it up, you would, if I go to here, you would find that one unique value that you're matching. So in our case, it was the program, and then we can map multiple fields in as many places as you want. And you can also run multiple data meshes onto that sheet. So in this case, I did one for our contact information here, and then one for our department. And we were pulling in multiple fields in each of those cases.
Perfect. And with the lookup, if the reference data changes, does it change all the records historically as well? For example, chair changes, then that field changes for all the records.
It depends on how you have it set up. When you are setting this up, to previous, we can have it overwrite the existing data, or we can have it copy the data or create cell links. So that if it's cell links, then if there is a change, that will create that back and forth. Or if you're just copying the data, there's no linking, then we're just pushing it out one way. So you have that flexibility.
When the revision was accepted, did it automatically create the project plan?
In this scenario, what I showed you on the screen, it didn't automatically create this project plan, but that is ideally how it would function. And Smartsheet does have tools like Control Center, where once this intake is approved, I've got these columns hidden. Here we go. Once these are approved, then we would say, yes, this is ready for Control Center. Control Center would pick up all of this approved data and then automatically create a project plan for you. So that then you could also have a portfolio dashboard a portfolio dashboard of all of your project plans and all of your projects in flight. So that's a great next step there.
Does data mesh allow using column data from one sheet as drop-down options on a different sheet?
Data Shuttle does that. So that is an option, but it would be with our tool called Data Shuttle.
For data mesh, do all spreadsheets need to reside in Smartsheet? I assume that would be yes.
Yeah, for data mesh, the sheets do need to reside in Smartsheet, but that is probably a great segue into Data Shuttle, which is what we're going to look at next for solutions where some of the data may live outside of Smartsheet.
Perfect. And
So,
can data mesh, be combined with formulas? Or the purpose is to use it to avoid formulas?
Yeah, the purpose would be to use the tool to avoid formulas. You could certainly have other formulas running in your sheet simultaneously. So if you wanted to have a formula to automatically adjust the health of a task based on due date and percent complete, you could have that running in one field while you're using data mesh to pull in due dates that may live in another sheet. So you can kind of work them together. But if you are using formulas as for lookup values, then you would probably just use data mesh instead.
Perfect. If there's any more, I'll bring it up at the end.
Perfect. So this next piece is going to be looking at, we're going to use grant fulfillment and tracking specifically as an example, but we'll be looking at that bigger picture of how do we pull in data from external systems into Smartsheet. So for this example specifically, a lot of the challenges we run into or that we see with Smartsheet are a lack of visibility. The budgets are being tracked in multiple places. You may have financial data in one tracking tool, contract data in another tool. And so you're waiting, similarly with the data mesh example, you're waiting for one team to send you an Excel sheet so that you can get it into Smartsheet. And by the time you get that Excel sheet, things have changed in the project itself or the grant itself. And so those numbers are no longer accurate. And you're constantly playing catch up and kind of behind the drop here. And so on top of that, and part of the reason that you're also working with outdated numbers is spending so much time trying to reformulate. Because if you're pulling in data from another system, realistically, it's going to be in a different format than it will be in Smartsheet. Because there's different, reasons that you may be using these tools or different purposes for the data in each of these contexts. So one solution here is our tool called Data Shuttle. And with Data Shuttle, just like Data Mesh, you can map your data into Smartsheet. So you can map and say, we want to pull in only this type of data from our Excel sheet, but we want to pull it in from a different system into Smartsheet. And we want to automate that process so that it is as smooth as possible, so that we are always looking at the most accurate and updated data when it's happening. And with that, let's close this and we will look at grant management. So here we have an example of, this is a grant fulfillment dashboard where we can see the life cycle of a single grant. We can see what's been committed, where we are within the process, key deliverables that we need to worry about, or things that we need to get ahead of, budget specifically, what's being spent, where is the money going. And so that's great, but realistically, a lot of teams have contract or financial specific software that's not going to go away, and that's fine. It doesn't need to, but in order to understand the actual health of a grant, we need that visibility in the same place that we are tracking progress on deliverables and progress on impact, so that we can have that well-rounded picture. So here I can open up our budget sheet, and we will see, as it opens, high-level information about this grant specifically. So here we can see, what's been spent, what are the changes, where is the money going, and this is great. But if you've worked on grants, especially longer ones, realistically, there is not a single grant that just doesn't have any changes. There is going to be amendments where there's going to be a change in the value of what is allocated to spend, or you're shifting money around. Maybe the total value hasn't changed, but now we're allocating more money here, less money there. Or if it's a multi-year grant, we have to reapply, and maybe the value awarded changes slightly, and that's going to affect how much we have available to spend. But we want to make sure that the entire team has this visibility, because the worst thing you can do is leave money on the table. So if we don't know what's happening, then how are we going to know how much we actually have available to spend? So with Smartsheet and Data Shuttle, here, can you all see my Excel sheet here, Ariana or Kevin?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So here we've got an Excel sheet, and we can see we've got these values in this addendum column here. So in this example, I realize this is a very simple example. It was kind of more complicated, but the process is still the same. We can see there have been these changes to our financial data as it relates to this grant, and we want this reflected into our Smartsheet. We don't want to create a new sheet, because that's going to then lose all of the historical context. It's going to lose the automations we already have set up. We don't want to copy and paste. We could, but if you had a much more realistic budget sheet where there's going to be a lot more values, a lot more columns, that creates a lot of risk, where you might accidentally have a typo or leave off a zero, or add a zero. And then now your data is not accurate, or maybe you even just miss a row altogether. If you're staring at a screen all day, it's really easy for the lines to blur together. So with Data Shuttle, we can go ahead and attach this file that we have downloaded from our external system. So we're going to add this addendum here. And what Data Shuttle is going to do is it's going to read our Excel file, and it's going to say, if these cost codes match what is in our sheet here, then go ahead and pull in the addendum data. And we can see that's already happened. It's automatic. And so we didn't pull in the entire Excel sheet. We didn't rewrite everything. We didn't pull in or mess anything that's already happened. We've just pulled in the relevant pieces, so that now our budget sheet is accurate. And if we look at our dashboard, this is accurate too. The updates are being made here because of this connected environment, where anytime a change is made in our sheet, that is also reflected in our project dashboard, which means it's also going to be reflected in our portfolio, where we can see across all of our grants in flight, all of these different changes that have happened at the individual grant level and how that is affecting our overall budget as a whole. And so while I've showed this example with financial data, you could just as easily do this for, say, applications. If you are managing applications that your team is applying for in Smartsheet, there's, databases full of grant information in other systems. So maybe we need to pull some updates, or maybe you're automatically tracking LOIs or award dates in another system. We could use the same functionality to pull in that into a tracking sheet for all of your applications in Smartsheet. So it's definitely a tool that is useful for more than just financial or budget or numbers data, but for any sort of data where you are pulling from another source outside of Smartsheet. And then just like with data mesh, we can now use automations to our advantage and say, we can set up an alert that says, anytime we have a budget variance in the red, notify the project owner or the grant owner. So that again, we're creating this continuous communication loop where people are being notified. They don't have to check, they don't have to set reminders, they can set up automations to do all of that heavy reminding and lifting for them. And then when those do happen, they go to their email, they get notified, and then they can continue to make those updates and changes as needed. And so with that, other again, those main takeaways is that we can really centralize the data across different systems. It's unrealistic to think that you'll live in a single tool for all of your different needs. And some teams really work better in different systems, and those systems are purpose-built and perfect for that. But we still want that holistic, bigger picture. So we can use Data Shuttle to create that single source of truth and really eliminate silos, allow you to work across teams, just like Data Mesh, but now externally from Smartsheet, so that you are operating as efficiently as possible. We're not worried about typos or errors because we're really relying on automations to make the updates where possible. And so with that, other use cases for Data Shuttle include invoice tracking. That's a really big one we see, especially kind of hand in hand with either contracts or grants, but also time tracking, or anytime you're pulling in data from other ERP or CRM type systems, Data Shuttle is going to be a really great tool for that. And so with that, I will pause. We can either ask questions or pass it back to you, Mariana.
Yep, we have quite a few. So for Data Shuttle, do you have to manually reattach the spreadsheet each time you want the data updated? Or is there a link established with the spreadsheet that each time the spreadsheet is updated, that it updates accordingly in Smartsheet?
It can be both. So in this case, if I go here, actions. In this case, you would have to, what we showed today, you would just update the attachment every time there is a change. So you will need to pull the data. That is the only non-automated piece, is you will need to pull the data from a source. But I've worked with customers where when it spends them, an hour minimum every day or every week to map the data and retype and pull it into Smartsheet, the 2 minutes that it takes to pull the data from another system is completely worth it. And then when you're setting this up, you can see here I've got this attachment, meaning this is going to run on attachment. But if we edit this, we can also have it pull from OneDrive, Google, or Box. And so that's actually how I've been managing the registration of this and keeping track of all of our numbers, is I've been pulling from Google Drive. So anytime I drop an updated registration sheet in Google Drive, Data Shuttle is taking that and updating us so that we can track internally. So you can do it both ways. So that's also another way to use it, is not just for budget, but another example is if, event management and managing registration, even credentialing with data mesh if you're doing that in another system.
Perfect. Can Smartsheet receive direct transfers of data from the source software? Must it come from Excel download?
Yes and no. Yes, it can receive direct transfers. Smartsheet has an open API, so you could build out that connection. We also have a tool called Bridge that is basically a API coder tool. And so you could use either write your own API code or use Bridge to help create that direct transfer. Or if those things aren't within the individual skill set or budget, then you can use Data Shuttle to use Excel to your advantage.
Can you set up notify? Oh, it looks like Kevin just answered that one. I'm seeing if there's any. Can Data Shuttle use shared OneDrive folders yet?
Yes.
Can the Data Shuttle be set such that it will automatically grab data from a location in a folder every day or month, the same file?
Yes. And actually, I should have probably not stopped sharing. But if I go back into our Data Shuttle, so when we're setting this up, I have this run on attachment, but we could also run on schedule. So we can say every day of the week or every day, what time, and every 15 minutes, every hour. So Data Shuttle can run as frequently as every 15 minutes. And so then anytime there is a new file in that location, it will pull in the data.
There was a question on integration with larger systems like SAP or Oracle. So we could probably address that. Data Shuttle is the most ability to pull out any of those systems, but not the direct.
Yeah, exactly. So with things like the two we get a lot are Workday and SAP. And so Data Shuttle is actually probably going to be the most efficient and actually cost-effective way to pull data from those systems.
Can the data be updated in both directions from Smartsheet to the source of truth and back?
Yes. When you set this up, when you create a workflow, here we go. You have the option to create an upload or an offload workflow. And so you can create that circle data flow.
I think that's it. I just saw Haley's question come in of just to clarify, Smartsheet does not have a direct connector to Workday, but rather Data Shuttle is the best use and product to use because it can pull data out of any source of system versus having to purchase possibly a direct connector for each one of those systems. Smartsheet recommends Data Shuttle to use because you can pull out of any system as long as the data is downloadable by a CSV or Excel file.
Correct, yeah. And Workday requires, they have their own special API actually. And so they're a little bit more challenging, not just for Smartsheet, but for any tool to integrate with. So unless that is something that you already have internally, then we would definitely recommend Data Shuttle there.
I think that's it. If there's other general Q&A questions, feel free to write in now as we kind of pivot into wrapping up.
Excellent.
Awesome. Well, I will just to make everyone aware that might not right now, our Smartsheet Engage conference is coming up in October, the 8th through the 10th. We will have dedicated sessions for the education industry, healthcare industry, and our government industry. So we'll have dedicated sessions specific to your industry, having some of our customers speak and demo and walk through solutions that they've built within Smartsheet. We'll also have networking sessions and also luncheons where you'll be able to meet other individuals throughout the industry. Highly suggest attending if you're able to. We sold out last year and probably anticipating selling out in the next month or so. So if this is of interest, we do have on our website a letter that you can use to present to your leadership the value that you would receive from attending the conference. We have over 400 education organizations and higher education institutions that are registered today. It's an amazing event, a full immersive 2-day experience where you'll get to see the roadmap of our future products, get to connect with other customers and how they're leveraging Smartsheet, and then face-to-face opportunities with all of our resources and teams. There's an experience hub, so you can spend time talking to product managers that are actually working on products like Dynamic View and Data Shuttle. And we'll also have an industry booth there with Angie and Kevin and other solution engineers where you can grab time and learn a little bit more based on what you saw today. So definitely feel free to check that out. We'll send out a link, but definitely encourage to sign up as soon as you can. Again, because we're nearing capacity and definitely want everyone able to attend that is interested. Yes, we will provide the letter and also the link to register, and our agenda was also just released yesterday. So you can see the full content and agenda for Engage live as of yesterday on our public website. So we will share that out after the fact, along with the recording and Q&A. We'll be putting it together in a dashboard for everyone to be able to review it after the fact and go back, and we'll have timestamps on each time of the presentations as well. But we'll hang on a little bit longer if there's any more questions, but if not, we appreciate everyone's time, and there will be more sessions coming up in the future. So if there's anything you want to see, feel free to reach out to us and suggest future topics and use cases you'd like to see.